Rain hammered the sidewalk as Sienna Brooks bolted out of the tiny apartment she shared with two roommates and a broken microwave. It was barely 7:45 a.m., and she was already 15 minutes behind schedule for the biggest day of her life, the startup challenge at Carson Holdings. She clutched a damp folder under one arm, her blouse stuck to her back, and prayed her Uber would save her from public humiliation. Except it didn't. As she checked her cracked phone for the fifth time, the screen flickered, turned black, and died. Dead, completely. Just like her chances of making it in time. No, no, no. Not now, she groaned, slamming the useless phone into her tote bag. Water dripped off her bangs. Her sneakers squished with every step. She looked up, and that's when she saw it. A sleek, black Mercedes-Benz, idling just outside the hotel entrance headlights, on windows slightly fogged. Her heart leapt. Same model she picked on the app. Same color. Same vibe. Fate! She sprinted across the wet pavement, yanked the back door open, and jumped into the car like a girl escaping a heist. Finally she panted. Turn left at the next light and floor it. I'm late, I'm soaked, and I swear if I miss this pitch, I will personally haunt the hiring board. The driver didn't say a word. Don't give me that look, she snapped. I know I'm a mess. The Uber app glitched, my phone's dead, and I've had 2 hours of sleep and zero coffee. Today was supposed to be the turning point in my career. Instead, I'm wearing mismatched socks and my resume's half drenched, still silent. Sienna leaned forward. You're quiet. Strong silent type, huh? That's fine. Just drive like your paycheck depends on it. Also, can I just say, this car smells incredible, like money and new leather. Definitely out of my league. But hey, desperate times. She collapsed back into the plush leather seat, trying not to notice how comfortable it was. Her cheap umbrella, now folded beside her, leaked onto the floor mat. The driver's eyes flicked toward her through the rearview mirror, icy gray, unreadable. Sienna didn't catch it. She was too busy digging for a granola bar. You ever wonder, she mumbled, chewing, why the rain always shows up when you're already drowning in bad luck? It's like the universe is passive-aggressively reminding you that you're not in control. No response. Okay, not a talker. Cool, I respect that. Mystery adds charm. But just FYI, you should probably update your Uber app. There's no profile picture? And wait, you didn't ask for my name. That's kinda sus. She froze. Silence stretched thick in the car. She slowly leaned forward again. This is an Uber, right? The light turned green. The car rolled forward. Still no answer. A nervous laugh escaped her. This would be really awkward if you're not my ride. The driver's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile. More like a warning label that said, you're not ready for what comes next. But Sienna didn't get the message. Not yet. They turned the final corner toward the Carson Holdings Tower, a 40-story glass monolith that screamed money and power. As the car pulled up to the front steps, Sienna fumbled for cash. Hey, thanks. I'll Venmo you when I find a charger, promise. You're a lifesaver. She popped the door open, hopped out, and slammed it shut without looking back. One last thing she said before disappearing into the building. Wish me luck. I'm about to meet a bunch of stuck-up executives who probably think I don't belong. The Mercedes didn't drive away right away. Inside, the man behind the wheel sat for a moment, his fingers resting on the steering wheel. Eyes fixed on the entrance Sienna had just disappeared through. Then, and only then, Noah Carson, CEO of Carson Holdings, cracked a smile. A slow, dangerous, amused smile. Sienna burst through the lobby doors of Carson Holdings, heart pounding like a war drum. Her blouse stuck to her back. Her sneakers squeaked against the marble floor, and her nerves were fried beyond repair. But at least she made it. Ma'am, name, please, the receptionist asked, already typing. Sienna Brooks. For the startup challenge. The woman scanned her list, gave a curt nod, and waved her toward the elevators. 17th floor, conference room A. Sienna exhaled and stepped in. The elevator doors closed behind her. She had no idea what was waiting on the other side. 17 floors later, she walked into a room packed with young professionals. Laptops open, suits ironed, not a single person with taco socks and damp folders. Her chest tightened. She slipped into an empty seat and tried to blend in, praying no one noticed the wet spot on her jeans from the umbrella disaster. Moments later, a sharp voice called out, "Phone's off, please. He's on his way down." He? Someone whispered, "That's the CEO, Noah Carson." Sienna blinked. Wait, the Noah Carson. She didn't have time to wonder. The door opened, and he walked in. Same jawline, same gray eyes, same man who drove her here 10 minutes ago while she barked directions like she owned the place. Noah Carson, her Uber driver. The air left her lungs like someone had punched her in the chest. He stepped to the front with absolute composure, flawless in a tailored navy suit, no sign of the raindrops or silence that had followed them through the city. His gaze swept across the room, casual, confident, and then locked onto her. She froze. "Please, don't say anything. Please, please." But of course he did. With a faint, dangerous smile, he leaned into the mic and said, "Good morning, everyone. I'm Noah Carson, CEO of Carson Holdings. I hope none of you had trouble getting here this morning, or mistook me for someone else." The room erupted in laughter. Every head turned toward her. Sienna wished the floor would open up and swallow her whole. She sat perfectly still, a stunned deer in a boardroom full of wolves. Noah didn't break eye contact. He smiled. She didn't. He continued with the presentation as if nothing had happened, outlining the startup challenge, the goals of the project, the expectations from each candidate. But Sienna didn't hear a word. Her mind was replaying every second in that car. Her rants, her socks, her "this car smells like money" comment, the croissant story. She practically gave him her entire autobiography, thinking he was a driver. What made it worse? He had let her. He knew who he was the entire time and said nothing. After the meeting, she tried to leave quietly. No sudden moves, no eye contact. She made it halfway to the elevator before a familiar voice stopped her cold. "Miss Brooks?" Sienna froze. Slowly she turned. Noah stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, amused smirk still on his face. "You left in a hurry. No 5-star rating." She blinked. That wasn't funny." "I disagree." Her cheeks burned. "You should have said something. You didn't give me a chance." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Besides, I was curious what you'd say next. Your thoughts on overpriced croissants were enlightening." Sienna looked away, humiliated. But then his tone softened. "I admire your honesty, Miss Brooks. Most people walk in here trying to impress. You walked in being real." She didn't know what to say to that, so she just said, "I'm sorry." "You don't need to be," he said. "I think this is going to be interesting." He turned and walked away, leaving her speechless in the hallway. She pressed the elevator button, her hand trembling. Interesting. What did that mean? Whatever it meant, she knew one thing. She wasn't just here to compete anymore. She'd just crashed headfirst into something way bigger. And Noah Carson had just made her part of his story. Sienna fully expected to be kicked out the next day. Or, at the very least, blacklisted. She'd made a fool of herself in front of an entire boardroom, exposed every inch of her chaotic personality to the CEO himself, and topped it off by treating him like a gig worker. In her mind, the damage was done. So when HR called her in and said, "You've been selected for a special project team, effective immediately," she froze. I'm sorry. What Mr. Carson requested it personally," the rep replied, not even looking up from the computer. "You'll be assisting the Internal Innovation Task Force, starting tomorrow." She walked out of that room like a ghost. Brain fog, palms sweaty. All she could think was, why me? Was this punishment, a power game? Or worse, was he messing with her? The next morning, she arrived to find her name already printed on a temporary badge outside a glass-walled team room. Inside, 4 men in sharp suits and 1 woman with steel-gray eyes were mid-discussion over strategy charts. Noah wasn't there, relieved briefly. Then, right before noon, he walked in, no tie, rolled up sleeves, confident as always. He glanced around the room. "Morning, team. Let's keep this tight. I've got back-to-back meetings, but I'll stay for the first 20 minutes. His gaze found Sienna like a magnet. "Brooks, you're running lead on the first draft, right?" She nearly choked on her iced coffee. I, uh, I thought I was assisting. You are. And leading. Same thing here. Everyone stared. She swallowed hard, nodded once, and scribbled something on her notepad she'd later realize was just her own name over and over again. Over the next week, things got weirder and warmer. Noah didn't hover, didn't flirt, didn't even pull rank, but he watched, closely. He sat in on her brainstorms. He replied to her feedback even when it contradicted his vision. He corrected her grammar on a slide deck, only to have her snap back. Actually, that's the Oxford comma. It's not wrong. He smirked. Fair point. She expected him to lash out. Instead, he asked her to present the entire proposal at Thursday's meeting. What was happening? One afternoon, she caught him standing at the printer, flipping through copies like a man who'd never used one before. She walked over. Need help? She asked, suspicious. He didn't look up. You tell me. The file's printing with the header wrong. She peered at the paper. That's because you didn't check the scale to fit box. This template's built for A4, not letter. You're saying it's my fault? I'm saying it's your template, boss. He grinned. That smile. That quiet, I like being challenged smile. For the first time, Sienna realized something terrifying. He wasn't punishing her. He was paying attention. Not to her resume, not to her GPA, not to her carefully rehearsed pitch, but to her, the real, unfiltered, wildly unpolished version. And worst of all, she found herself paying attention back. Every time he passed her desk, her heart skipped. Every time he mentioned her name in a meeting, she straightened her spine just a little. And when he stayed late once and left her a post-it that said, "Nice save today," after she fixed a budgeting error no one else noticed. She stared at it for 10 full minutes, crumpled it, then smoothed it out and tucked it in her planner. She didn't want to admit it, but something was happening. And whatever it was, Noah Carson had just made her impossible to ignore. It started with a casual dinner invitation. Just a thank you. Noah had said that Friday evening, standing outside her cubicle, sleeves rolled up tie, long forgotten. But Sienna knew better. The look in his eyes had shifted. Sharper, warmer, real. She said yes, even though everything in her screamed, don't get too close. They ended up at a tiny Italian bistro, tucked between a laundromat and a vape shop in Midtown. Not five-star, not business formal, just real. Breadsticks, laughter, terrible jazz covers playing too loud in the background. And for the first time, Noah looked like someone who wasn't carrying a billion-dollar company on his back. Over calamari, he asked about her childhood. Over lasagna, she told him she used to write code on library computers she couldn't check out because she owed $2,050 in late fees. He didn't blink, just listened. But it was the car ride home that changed everything. The rain had returned soft this time, just tapping on the roof like a metronome. The city lights blurred outside. Sienna's voice was quieter now, the kind of quiet that comes only when you feel safe. He parked in front of her apartment and turned slightly toward her. She looked up. Their faces were close, too close. Close enough that her breath caught. He leaned in. She didn't stop him. Their lips were inches away when his phone rang. The sound snapped the moment in two. He glanced at the screen. One word, Mom. He let it ring once, twice, then answered. Hey, yeah, I'm just heading home. Sienna shifted back, heart still racing, trying not to read into it. But something in his voice, tight-clipped, told her everything she needed to know. The moment was gone. The next morning, Carson Holdings buzzed with its usual rhythm, but Sienna's stomach was tight with something else, something unspoken. As she stepped into the glass lobby, she spotted a tall woman near the elevator bank, dressed in a pristine cream coat, heels sharper than her cheekbones. She was speaking with the front desk assistant in that quiet but commanding way people reserve for billionaires and royalty. Sienna didn't have to guess. Eleanor Carson, chairwoman, matriarch, reputation colder than her son's steel-gray eyes. And of course, she turned just as Sienna approached. Their eyes locked. It wasn't a long exchange, but it burned. Miss Brooks, Eleanor said smoothly, I've heard you made quite an impression. Sienna opened her mouth, unsure whether to apologize, explain, or run. But Eleanor didn't wait. I only hope you realize who you're standing beside, because legacy doesn't make room for error or emotion. Her eyes scanned Sienna from head to toe. My son deserves a woman who knows her place and her direction. Mistaking a man for your Uber driver isn't promising. Before Sienna could reply, Eleanor was gone. Just like that, Noah found out within the hour. He came into her office unannounced, face flushed, jaw locked. She spoke to you? Sienna nodded slowly, briefly. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. God, I should have warned you. You didn't need to, she said softly. I got the message, loud and clear. He stopped. Sienna. But she held up a hand. Noah, look. This whole thing between us, it's complicated. You're you, I'm not. You're not what worth it. She looked away. That's not what I meant. I don't care what she thinks. Well, maybe you should. She snapped, surprising even herself. Because clearly, she has a say. And I'm not going to be the reason you go to war with your own mother. He went quiet. The air between them turned cold. And just like that, the space they'd built began to crack. What had started as playful tension was now tangled in something deeper, heavier. Sienna walked out of the room before he could stop her. And Noah didn't chase her. Not this time. The next morning, Noah walked into his office and found an envelope resting on the corner of his desk. No name on the front, no dramatic flourish. Just plain white, quiet. He knew what it was before he even opened it. Inside a single sheet of paper, typed no signature. Mr. Carson. Thank you for the opportunity. I know I don't belong in your world, but at least I never pretended to. Sienna, that was it. Noah stood frozen for a full minute, the letter trembling in his hand. He didn't call her. He didn't chase her. He didn't even move. Because deep down, a voice in his head, his mother's voice, was already whispering, "This is for the best." Sienna packed up her desk in silence. No tears, no dramatic exits. Just one box of mismatched pens, a half-used legal pad, and a little sticky note that once read, "Nice, saved today," now folded, faded, and quietly tucked away. The building felt colder, brighter, like it had already erased her. Noah didn't show up to say goodbye. She didn't wait for him. 2 days later, she was back behind the counter at Finch's Bakery, wearing a pale pink apron and punching orders into an ancient register that still made clicking sounds. Tall, drip black. No sugar, the customer said. Sienna nodded, not even looking up. Coming right up. It wasn't glamorous, but it was familiar. No glass walls, no boardrooms, just flour steam and the occasional burnt muffin. Still, every time the bell over the door jingled, her heart paused. Just for a second, hoping, then falling again. Noah, meanwhile, dove into work like a man trying to outrun something. He buried himself in meetings, memos, meaningless decisions. But her absence was loud. The chair in the third row of the strategy room, empty. The coffee machine. Suddenly, always broken. The printer, still printing headers wrong. And worse, he let her go. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to fight both love and legacy at the same time. Every time he saw his mother, her words echoed louder. A mistake like her will cost you everything you've built. So he stayed silent. Until one evening a week later, he was cleaning out a drawer and found her resume tucked behind a stack of reports. It was wrinkled, water-stained, probably from the day she arrived soaking wet. At the bottom, in tiny print, under additional skills, it read, "Can recognize real value, even if it's in disguise." Noah stared at it for a long time. Then he grabbed his keys. Meanwhile, back at the bakery, Sienna was wiping down tables when a little girl tugged on her sleeve. "Are you the lady from the internet?" Sienna blinked. "What?" "My mom said you told off a billionaire." Sienna laughed softly. "I didn't tell him off. I just left." The girl tilted her head. "Did he deserve it?" Sienna hesitated. "Then no. He deserved better. I just didn't know if I could be that." That night, she closed up shop alone. The streets were quiet, just the glow of street lamps and the hum of city life. She locked the door, turned around, and froze. Noah was standing across the street. No umbrella, no driver, just him, hands in his coat pockets, looking straight at her. He didn't move, didn't wave, just waited. Sienna stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked the other way. Because sometimes silence says more than words ever could. And in that moment, both of them knew this wasn't over. But it wasn't right. Not yet. 1 month later, the ballroom of the Lexington Grand shimmered in gold. Chandeliers like constellations, champagne flutes clinking like delicate wind chimes. Power suits, heel silk ties. This wasn't a party. This was a parade of legacy. Tonight was the National Young Leaders Gala, and Noah Carson was the centerpiece. Award recipient, industry phenom, billionaire before 35, the face of modern American business. Front row in a pearl white suit sat Eleanor Carson, poised like royalty. Her expression was unreadable, but everyone knew this night was just as much hers. Across the room, near the edge of the catering station, Sienna adjusted her black apron and tried not to be seen. She shouldn't have been there. She had begged for the shift, said she needed the extra cash, said she didn't care, but it was a lie. She knew exactly what tonight was. She knew who would be standing on that stage. And even though her fingers trembled each time she refilled a glass, she stayed. Because part of her, the reckless part, still wanted to see if he remembered, if she still mattered. Backstage, Noah stood behind the curtain, adjusting the collar of his tux. He wasn't nervous. He'd given speeches in Dubai, Tokyo, D.C. He'd pitched to billionaires and calmed crashing stocks. But tonight, his hands wouldn't stop shaking, because she was here. He hadn't known until 5 minutes ago. A server with familiar eyes and that same tired grace had passed behind the curtain with a tray, and everything inside him tilted. She looked smaller, quieter, but still Sienna. And suddenly the speech he'd rehearsed, the safe, polished one, felt wrong. And now the announcer said, "Please welcome our honoree, Mr. Noah Carson." Thunderous applause, dozens of cameras. Eleanor leaned forward in her seat, chin-high pride carefully painted across her face. Noah stepped up, gripped the podium, cleared his throat. Silence settled like fog. He began, "I was taught that business is about strategy, precision, control, that success comes to those who plan 5 steps ahead and never blink." A pause. And for most of my life, I believed that. Until one day, someone got into my car by mistake. The room laughed softly, politely. Eleanor frowned. She thought I was her Uber driver. I said nothing. She talked the entire ride about failure, about hope, about how life keeps kicking you down, but you keep showing up anyway. His voice grew tighter, steadier. She had no idea who I was. She just spoke, honestly, fearlessly. The audience shifted. Curious now, hooked. That girl made me realize something I never saw coming, that sometimes the smartest thing a man can do is not follow the plan. Sometimes you have to let your heart take the wheel, even if it drives you straight into chaos. Sienna stood frozen near the back wall, a tray of desserts trembling in her grip. He looked directly at her. "Sienna Brooks, thank you for getting into the wrong car. You helped me realize that the right direction isn't always the most predictable one. And if I have any real legacy to leave, it's this. Choose people who remind you who you are when no one's watching. Not just the ones who look perfect on paper." The room was dead silent. Eleanor's face didn't move. Then slow applause, from the back, then the sides, then a wave of hands rising like dominoes. Noah stepped back, never breaking eye contact with the girl holding the tray of desserts, like it was the only thing keeping her standing. Sienna's chest rose and fell, her eyes shining, because in that moment in front of New York's elite, he chose her. Not in secret, not behind closed doors, but on a stage. The ballroom buzzed. Applause still echoed. But Sienna stood frozen. Her hands shook, a cocktail napkin crumpled between her fingers, forgotten. She didn't see the camera flashes, didn't hear the champagne corks popping in celebration. All she could hear was his voice still ringing in her chest. "Sienna Brooks, thank you for getting into the wrong car." She blinked back tears. Her eyes were burning. She needed air, space, something to hold on to. But before she could move, someone stepped into her path. Eleanor Carson, the chairwoman, the mother, the storm behind the empire. Up close she looked like power carved into bone. No smile, no softness. But for the first time, no disdain either. They stood in the shadow of a golden column. Servers rushed past. Conversations sparked back up around them. But in that moment, the world went quiet. Sienna didn't speak. Couldn't. Eleanor's gaze held hers. Calm, measured, heavy. "He's never stood against me," she said, voice low, but sharp. "Not once. Not in public. Not in private." A pause. Until tonight. Sienna's heart thudded. She gripped the napkin tighter, unsure if she was bracing for another wound or something else. "Noah doesn't fight for people," Eleanor continued. "He protects the company, the name, the legacy." She looked down for the briefest second, then back up, gaze unwavering. But he stood there, in front of hundreds of people who matter. "And he picked you." Sienna swallowed hard. Her voice barely made it out. "I didn't ask him to." Eleanor's reply came fast. "Exactly." Another pause. Eleanor studied her again, like she was searching for something deeper than appearances, deeper than mistakes. "If he's willing to risk it all for you, then you better damn well be willing to walk toward it." Sienna froze. "Don't run," Eleanor said. "Don't waste it." Then finally her voice softened, just a fraction. "Step forward, Miss Brooks, and don't look back." There was no hug, no smile, no forgiveness wrapped in a bow. But Eleanor Carson for the first time nodded and turned away. As she disappeared into the crowd, Sienna stood there alone, tears still threatening to spill, but something inside her had changed. The girl who used to doubt she belonged in the same room as billionaires had just been seen by the one woman who never gave that approval lightly. And more than that, she had been chosen. Sienna stood still in the golden corridor, the sound of Eleanor's words echoing in her mind. "Step forward, and don't look back." Her breath caught. Her fingers loosened around the napkin in her hand. Something inside her, finally, unlocked. And then, she felt it. A familiar presence behind her. A warmth that wasn't just physical. She turned slowly. Noah. No words, just him. His suit jacket unbuttoned. Tie slightly loosened. Eyes searching hers like he'd crossed the entire night to find one thing, and he had. He didn't speak. Instead, he gently reached for her hand, turned her palm up, and placed something in it, a black fountain pen, with the Carson Holdings logo etched in gold. Her eyes widened. She knew this pen. It was the one she dropped that day in his office, fumbling nervously before their first real presentation. The one she thought she'd lost forever. The one she thought he never noticed. But he had. He'd kept it. Noah finally spoke, quiet, firm. "Sienna, don't let one wrong car stop you from heading the right way." She looked at him. Really looked. No suits, no roles, no noise. Just Noah. And for once, she didn't overthink. She stepped forward. 3 months later, Chicago Tech and Innovation Conference. A sea of people buzzed with anticipation. Flashing screens, media booths, investors brushing shoulders with coders and dreamers. At the center of it all, a sleek Carson Holdings banner waved proudly above the main stage. But the real story wasn't the company. It was the couple standing together at the edge of the spotlight. Noah Carson and Sienna Brooks. She wore a fitted blazer, confidence in her walk, and that same stubborn spark in her eyes. No apron, no clipboard, just presence. Noah stood beside her, not in front of her. They weren't just dating. They were building. Together. Sienna had officially taken the lead on the new Carson Community Incubator, a project designed to fund startups from underserved backgrounds, her idea backed with his resources. Reporters whispered, cameras clicked. But she didn't flinch. And just as they were about to step onto the stage for their panel, "Wait," a voice said behind them. They both turned. Eleanor Carson. Elegant, calm, and this time, smiling. Well, almost. She glanced between them, then held up her phone. "Let me call your car." Sienna blinked, stunned. "Are you sure?" Eleanor gave a rare smirk. "Yes. But this time, try getting into the right one." They all laughed, soft, honest, real. Noah slipped his fingers through Sienna's, and as they walked toward the stage, hand in hand, he whispered, "Still the best wrong ride of my life." Sometimes, the biggest turning points in life begin with a simple mistake, like getting into the wrong car. This story reminds us that our true path often reveals itself when we step outside of comfort zones and expectations. Sienna never imagined that a rainy day and a dead phone would lead her to a love story that challenged power, pride, and legacy. And Noah, a billionaire, raised in a world of control and calculation, discovered that real courage is choosing love over reputation. But perhaps the deepest message here is this: the right person will fight for you, even if it means standing up to everything they've ever known. And when life gives you a second chance, take it, even if the world tells you you're not enough. Whether you're chasing your dream, rebuilding from nothing, or simply trying to find where you belong, don't be afraid to take the wrong turn. It might just lead you home. What did this story mean to you? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you believe in love, that's worth the risk. Hit that subscribe button. More real stories coming your way.